Hi guys, Amber here. Welcome back to In Conversation with ATF. Got to check I'm on the right microphone, otherwise it would come out sounding quite bad. Um, so my guest today is an actress. She has done voice work. She's done on camera work. Heck, she's done a lot. Honestly, right? You may know her for her live action stuff, such as she was Cissy Davis in Family Affair, the original Family Affair. Laura Hayden in The Big Valley. She's also been on The Bing Crosby Show, The Patty Duke Show, Father Knows Best. She was also on the 2003 remake of Family Affair as well, which is quite cool. She appeared in a Christmas episode. Her voice roles include Firestar, Storm, and other female characters in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, Miss America in Spider-Man 94, Alice Mitchell in Dennis the Menace, Mayday for Mother, Jenny Miller in Marvin, Baby of the Year, Enya Gale in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I believe I said Gale right. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. I don't watch anime and I feel bad. Um, she's also appeared in cartoons such as Fonz and the Happy Days Gang, the Tom and Jerry Kids Show, Droopy Master Detective, the new Yogi Bear show. See, there's so many. I'm literally just looking at my list now. There's just so many. The Richie Rich Scooby Doo show, the all new Super Friends Hour, the Real Ghostbusters. Her film roles include stuff in Apollo 13, The Princess Diaries, Unleashed, Ransom, Jingle All the Way, Helen's Last Love, Backdraft, and she's actually a Golden Palm star. Um, what is it? It's not a nominee because you won it. Holder, I could say Holder on the Palm Springs, California Walk of Stars. She won an Audie Award twice. So we say Audie Gordy differently. You say it there as like Audie, but over here it's like Audie, hence the different pronunciation. And also a Lifetime Achievement Award by the Young Artist Foundation. Well, who's got this massive CV? It's Kathy Garver. Hello, Kathy.
Hi, Amber. How are you?
I'm
I
good,
really
thank
don't
you.
think I'm old enough to have done all those things, but I guess I have. I started as a very small child. That's the reason.
Yeah, I did have a look at information online and stuff, and like your parents called you like a young Shirley Temple, and it's just such how supportive. Were they supportive of you becoming an actress?
Oh yes, they loved it. I was the youngest child of four, and so my mother had a little bit more time to devote to me. So I
Mhm.
started singing and dancing lessons at the age of three at the Meglin Studios. And the Meglin Studios in Hollywood was where they discovered everybody's favorite child star, Shirley Temple.
Shirley
So,
Temple.
tiny feet to follow in, but I did so far so well.
That is so cool. Did you ever get to meet Shirley or not?
I did. Actually, I moved up
Wow.
to Northern California when I got married many years
Hmm.
ago,
Yeah.
and she was our neighbor. And
Oh, wow.
I saw her on, and I saw her on a lot of charity events and different things in Northern California when she was the ambassador and had, far quit the entertainment business, but she was into politics at that time.
Yeah, wow, that's really cool. I like, you sort of kind of like you were kind of like her, but I didn't know you actually had met her. That's actually quite
Oh,
cool. That's
right,
something I
yes.
didn't know. So you've done obviously, as I've mentioned, a lot of stuff. So, I'd like to start off with your live action career first, if that's okay. If there is stuff you can talk about, even like with the ongoing SAG-AFTRA strikes, if that's okay.
Sure.
If there's anything you can't talk about, just let me know and we can just swiftly move on.
Right, yeah.
So Family Affair, how did that all come around for you? Because you played the eldest sibling of the Patterson Davis family in Family Affair. So how did that all come around for
Well,
you?
I had been working since I was a child. My first movie was The Ten Commandments, and I had the same agent all the way through my childhood acting. And when I became older, I was going to UCLA at the time, and my mom called me at the sorority and said, "Well, there is an interview for this new television series that's already been sold, which is anathema to in entertainment, because usually you have to make a pilot and then you have to sell it. This one was very nice because it had already been sold and accepted by CBS. So
Hmm.
they had already cast everyone except for the last character, which was Sissy. They had cast someone but she went on a trip and came back, and I guess it gained all this weight and had another job to do. I don't know exactly all the details, but they wanted somebody else. And so my mom called me up and they say, oh, okay, you have an interview across town. You got to get there quickly. They want a 15-year-old girl with blonde hair and blue or brown eyes. And I said, oh, okay, that's fine, Mom, but I'm 20 and I have dark hair. And they said, it's okay, I have a solution. Okay, Mom. So her solution was to come over to the sorority house. She had this can of spray that colors your hair instantly, tips and streaks, I think it was called. So she sprayed my hair. I really did have very dark hair at the time. And it came out blonde, but not blonde like this, like gold. And it was really hard to touch, you know, like I was wearing a helmet, not real hair. But she's, come on, we got to go. We have to be on the audition. So she sprints me across town, and I'm talking to the creator, the producer, the writer, all in one person, Edmund Hartman, who was really nice. And we were chatting and we were having a nice time. And then he looked at my hair and he says, what's the matter with your hair? And I said, my hair. And he says, yes, it's turning green. I says, green? Oh, must be the light shining in a strange way on my hair. So we had a chuckle about that. And the next day I went and did a screen test. They were already shooting the show, and they sent me to Max Factor, which is a big beauty place salon in Hollywood. They got this long blonde wig, and I went to Western Costumes, got this blue and white checked dress, pinafore. I looked like something out of Alice in Wonderland, but I guess I looked young. I was older and had to look 15. So I did my screen test, and I'm, you know, looking around the set that was already built. They were supposed to start shooting the next week. And so my agent called yesterday, the next day, and said, well, you got the part. I said, great. And all my sorority sisters yelling, yay, yay. Says, there's one caveat. And I said, fine, what is that? She said, they want you never to wear that wig again and never to wear that dress. And I said, that's fine with me. And that's how it all began.
That's amazing. And honestly, they had like such good stars on the show. I mean, Sebastian Cabot was on it. What was it like to work with him?
He was very good. It was really a nice dynamic between Sebastian and Brian Keith, who played Uncle Bill, because Sebastian came from England and he was very studied. He didn't really even graduate from high school, but he had a lot of training as a chauffeur, and he would chauffeur this actor, a well-known actor in England around town, who helped him get into the business. But he was very precise, and he went over and over the lines to get him exactly right. He did that over the weekends, and he did that with the script supervisor. Brian, on the other hand, came from a whole different kind of theater training. His parents were in vaudeville, and he worked, you know, as a child, and he was very Stanislavski method. And so it was like from the moment. So he would come on set and he says, well, like, what's the script? You know, what do we have today? And he'd say, oh, okay, let's go. And he wouldn't say all the lines particularly, right? But he got the essence, and he got the gist, and he got the emotion of the moment, and went moment to moment, which really made a difference between not only Sebastian, Mr. French, but the kids too, me included.
Yeah. So what was it like to work with the other child actors on the set? Because I know like you were the eldest sibling, so obviously like, you know, maybe offset, probably, you know, you were just watching over the other kids, you know, like just, you know, taking care of them, like, you know, how the actual family did it in the show. The actual Davis family did it. So what was it like to work with the other child actors?
Well, according to the child labor laws, they have to work just a certain amount of hours. So they go to school for 3 hours. And then they have an hour lunch. So they really only have 4 hours of work. And the schooling can be interrupted. You have to go at least for 20 minutes before it's counted towards the 3 hours. So they were fine. I didn't see them very much, you know, except for in our scenes. So I mean, we didn't like kind of hang out on the set, and they were so much younger, didn't really hang out. They weren't going to go to a disco with me. And Sebastian and Brian had their own families, and we were on set enough with each other. So we each had our own families and coterie of friends.
Ah, right, I see. So my last question about Family Affairs gotta be the 2003 remake. What was it like to return after all these years, even though you weren't Cissy anymore? What was it like to just simply just like return and stuff? How did it feel for you?
It was really surreal because they were shooting on the same stage as stage 10 that we shot the original Family Affair on. So it was like coming in and there were all these ghosts and other things around. And the show, in my opinion, was just really, truly awful. And it did not last very long. Everybody else thought it was really, truly awful. I think it's very difficult to do a remake. The audiences remember so well with emotions and fondness for that original cast, and they see other people trying to play it. And Tim Curry had such a different take on on Sebastian Cabot. Had such a different take on him. So it really didn't work out. And so I think they tried to make 13. They only showed 9, and then they took it off the air.
Wow.
Sequels are good. I like sequels. We're working on a sequel, have been, for Aunt Sissy. And that is what happened to the characters. People are always interested, I think, in that. What happened, to the friends they went to high school with, or junior high school, or were friends, or the friends that they made on television. Well, what happened to those characters? So that's a much better way, in my opinion, to go about doing, remake and
Yeah.
interest in carrying on.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you, to be fair. Like, don't sort of tamper with the classics unless, like, well, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's what,
Right.
everyone says.
And, the characters are so enduring, even like Mrs. Beasley, who was a character, I think, unto herself. And that was a little doll that Anissa Buffy carried around. And they still make Mrs. Beasley's, and they sell like, 200,000 a year. And what they did just this year is to bring out a new Christmas ornament that is the cutest thing I have ever seen. I swear to God. It is a tiny miniature Mrs. Beasley, and she speaks. You press her, and she says like 11 things. Merry Christmas. How are you? I love, in this little time. So anyway, and that's just today. So it shows the interest. And of course, when we were doing it, they had no idea they were going to have all these platforms, and Roku and MidTV and streaming and all. So it's generations of people. And I personally think that the show, because of its themes of love and family and morals and interest and comedy, just is very well taken today.
Yeah. Who voiced Mrs. Beasley? Was there ever a select person, or has it just never been revealed to this day?
It's a little sore point, Amber. The person that voiced her was one of the angels, one of Charlie's angels. And she happened to be Cheryl Ladd, and she happened to be the spokesperson. Okay, so here's a complicated thing. She was a spokesperson for Child Help. Child Help was a charity of Don Fedderson, the producer's wife. Yeah. And so she was chosen to do the voice of Mrs. Beasley. And so she did it, and there is a portion of the sales of Mrs. Beasley that still continues to go to Child Help and to that organization. So that's the story of the voice. I could have done a much better job. Cheryl Ladd is not a voiceover actress, even though she's very beautiful and lovely. But I'm a very good Mrs. Beasley. I love you. But there you have it.
I wonder for that Christmas tournament you said, do they bring back the VA, or like do they
I think
like,
what they did
lines?
is a tiny chip. I think they may have just used the same chip that they used in Mrs. Beasley, because she says I believe the same things.
Oh right, so it was just
11 of them.
Yeah, so reused lines instead of re-recorded then.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So your other live action stuff includes I can't even speak. The Bing Crosby show and the Patty Duke show as well. What was it like to work with those two on their respective shows? Just real quick before we move on to
Well, Bing Crosby, of course, was just fabulous and charismatic and a wonderful actor. Patty Duke, I started on her show, and we remained lifelong friends. I played her friend Monica, and she had done interviews with this fellow, Bob Jankowski, who wrote a new book, In the Presence of Greatness, and she passed away just as it came out. And I was privileged and honored to do the voiceover, to do the audiobook for In the Presence of Greatness. And I felt like she was on my shoulder and coming through. So she was just a terrific actress and a wonderful, lovely, giving, generous person.
She was definitely watching over you at that point when you were doing the narration.
Yes. Yeah, for
definitely.
Sure.
That's so lovely to hear. Now, I've got to, okay, this is my soft spot. This is like the part where people will get me the most. We are now going to talk about your voiceover career, like all your cartoons that you've done. Yay! So, oh my gosh, where do I start? How did you, of course you did like, like Family Affair, of course, because you were mainly known from that. How did you sort of move into voiceover? Not like move your whole career into voiceover, but just like as a simultaneous sort of, career. How did you get into voiceover?
Well, I had never heard a voiceover before, and I had a commercial agency. And so they were sending me on camera things, and they said, "Oh, we have a voiceover audition for you." I said, "Well, what's that? What does that mean, voiceover?" And they said, "Well, when you talk and they don't hear what you're saying, and there's a voice over a picture, like in a cartoon or in a commercial." And I said, "Oh, okay, I get it." So I go on this interview for this voiceover commercial, and for tuna fish, and I'll never forget it. And they say, "Okay, now you say, I like star-kissed tuna." I said, "Oh, okay, I can do this. This piece of cake. I like starfish tuna." I said, "Okay." And they say, "Now say it a different way." "What do you mean a different way?" I don't know. I like starfish tuna." "No, that's not quite what you mean. A different voice. A different voice."
Yeah.
"This isn't my voice. What do you mean a different voice?" A different voice." I said, "I like starfish tuna." "Okay, thank you very much." I said, "Well, I better take some lessons about this. I have no idea what I'm doing." So I took lessons from Mel Wells, who was just great. I had majored in speech in college in UCLA. I had a degree in speech, and then I got a master's in theater arts. But we did not cover voiceover. This was something, and it was something new. I mean, I'm old. I've been in this business so long, and it was a new technology, even the way that they were doing things with ADR, et cetera, et cetera. So then I embraced voiceover, taught it for 20 years.
Wow.
How to develop characters, how to speak, well and precisely, speech and diction. I taught ADR, which is looping.
Yep.
What ADR is.
Mm-hmm.
And then the difference between doing narration and audiobook and anime and cartoons, and because there's a different way in each one of those genres. So I took speech, so I talk a lot. Is this girl ever going to shut up? But that was how I got into it originally.
Wow. And a lot
Stumbled
of
my way.
yeah. A lot of people will know you as Firestar, one of the the main three from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, of course. Dan Gilvezan was Spider-Man, and my absolute hero, Frank Welker, was Iceman. I believe that was his name. So like, of course, I've seen there's a behind the scenes video online. I can't speak. I'm just like blah 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 blah. Of you three recording at Marvel Productions, because they were the ones who produced the show. And I think Stan Lee was featured as well. Who was the voice director for the show? Can you remember?
He was primarily the producer and the writer. We had a different director, and he did the opening narration for some of the episodes. but he was there, and he really left the recording up to us. He would make an appearance, and then, he was not a micromanager. He really let the actors, do their thing, the director do their thing. And he was really understanding the creative path and the creative route. And he was so creative. This was, and Frank and Dan had probably told you, that this was one of the first shows that he actually developed characters for. The other characters were all in comic books. And then he would take that character from the comic book, and then he would create a television show for it. These characters he created. And for Firestar, they didn't quite know what they wanted for her. And she first was Firestorm. And then they said no. And there was, I think, another Firestorm. And so, I love, of course, my favorite episode is A Firestar is Born, how she came to be, and she was a part of the X-Men, whole group.
Yeah, I've just had a look online. It was Alan Deinhardt who voice directed it.
Yes, Alan. Yes, and he was excellent. He was very good. And again, it's amazing. I have been blessed to really be in classic things, from the Ten Commandments, and one of the most classic, epics that have ever been done, to The Night of the Hunter, which became a classic horror film, then to the classic Family Affair, and to the classic Spider-Man. And these particular creative things continue to endure. Like I said, that we have a new Mrs. Beasley ornament just this year. So just this year, we came out with, and that Disney bought Marvel, and that Spider-Man is on Disney Plus every Saturday. So it's a Saturday morning cartoon. So again, all these people that are watching it, and Disney absolutely loves merchandising. So this came up this year. So this is all three of us. There's a Firestar, and there's Dan, Spider-Man, and your favorite over there, Iceman. But Firestar and Iceman never got too close, because I could just melt him if I ever wanted to.
Now I really want that. I want that.
And then they came out with this one.
Oh my gosh.
She has two heads, which I'm not really crazy about. I'm not crazy about losing my head, but there you have it. Then they came out, and my son, this was so kind of him. I had, two of these in the garage, and he put his bicycle on top, 32, putting his bicycle on top. But they came out with these big statues of Firestar, which are beautiful. And they had boxes, and I have a crush box, of course, now, the collectible. And there she is. She's without her home. Is over there, that box. So they have all these, and here's another one. And these are all just coming out. This year, these are very
Toys R Us. Oh my gosh, I haven't seen that name in.
So they're a limited, super limited quantity, of course. But there you have it. We endure. I'm still around here, and as is Firestar and all my other characters.
Yeah. I really want that 3-pack that you showed on screen, because I just want you and Dan and Frank sign it. I just want you guys to sign it, and just like me just have it and just be like, But honestly, the cast is another thing I'm impressed about of Spider-Man and his amazing friends, because of course you had Neil Ross, who I spoke to recently, Michael Bell, who I've had on my show before, John Stevenson, Bill Calloway, who I'm still trying to reach, I've never given. And June Foray was Aunt May.
Yes, she was Aunt May. If they do a live action of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, I would like to play Aunt May, and have our Ms. Lion, the little dog, be in the show as well. Frank can still do the voice of
the little
Ms. Lion. But Frank does. As you know, he's done every kind of animal that exists. Every dog is. Frank does them all, and he does them beautifully. It's the modern day Mel Blanc.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm having a look now. Apparently, right. It just says on behind the voice actors that Anne Lockhart also voiced Storm as well.
She may have. I just talked to her, as a matter of fact, this morning. were waiting around they threw the SAG actors under the bus with their health insurance. So she was really on top of what's happening with that. Yeah, Annie Lockhart was also in the episode of Death Valley Days. Her mom, June, played a library attendant. I played Isadora Duncan, a waif. And it was that episode that Family Affair watched because, again, and at that time, I think I did it when I was 18. I was playing a 12-year-old. So it's just because I'm like 5 feet tall. I used to be 5.5 inches, but now that I'm old, I think I'm just 5 feet. But so I'm small, so I can really get away with a lot. I was really, now I'm just a little old lady.
Oh my god! My cheeks are smiling. I'm just smiling too much. My dimples are just like they're just like rock hard right now. I'm literally still looking at the cast for Spider-Man, and Peter Cullen was the voice of Hulk. I did not know this. Like, he's literally in my wardrobe. I met him with Frank, and he was so lovely. And then Frank was Uncle Ben as well. I'm literally just still looking for this. Is just so
and John
amazing.
Forsythe and Brian Keith.
And Janet Waldo as well. And Chris Latta was Sandman. Wow. Yeah. I'm learning. I'm learning.
And as I say, Brian Keith, who played Uncle Bill, did a couple episodes of Spider-Man, and John Forsythe. So, and these were people that were primarily known as on camera actors and stars. They were superstars, and they were on our show very happily so.
I know, because Chris Latta had a stand-up comedy background. Frank Welker started out as a stand-up comedian, and he still did it in like the 80s and stuff like that. Who else?
Yeah, and he's so great because he can sit down and do the comedy as well as stand-up.
Yeah, Hans Conried, Stan Jones. Oh my word. There's so many people, and that's not all, because if you literally go on Wikipedia, right, it says like a whole like list of voice actors who were in it, which is honestly like even like the guest stars who were only in it for one episode. It just tells you like all these people, and it's just so long. It's like notable like Michael Ansara, Alan Young, oh my gosh, Alan Melvin. Who else is there? Oh my word, I swear it was like Kathy Cavadini, Susan Blue, who's right, well.
Kathy Cavadini, sure.
Yeah, and I'm actually speaking to Bob Bergen on Friday. I forgot he was in it. Oh my gosh, like this is so cool. Like everyone I know is in it, and that's Cissy Blue, who's up there on my wardrobe. She's right there. It's really lovely. Oh man, so crazy. Just I know all these people, and it seemed like a show where like everyone comes together. And I'm impressed.
And unfortunately, we don't meet them all because they at that time I think we only had 3 mics. And we couldn't all be in at the same time. So they would, okay, we're going to have Brian Keith and John Forsythe and Bill Cullen. And we weren't even there. And maybe they'd just have that scene with one of us. So, I mean, I didn't record with a lot of those people.
Before we sort of like get cut off, Kathy, I'd like to ask you a quick question. What would you say is your favorite moment from recording Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends?
I remember just at the reading, and what we would do is sit down and we would get the new script and we would read, and they would have a storyboard. And I had not recorded that way, and I just remember this moment of having, this is so much fun. I love being with these people. I love doing what I do, and it just kind of all came together for me at that one moment that I still stays in my mind so very clearly.
Oh, that's really sweet. Do you remember working with any of the notable guest stars on episodes?
As I said, I didn't see very many of them. Sherry Alberoni and Susan Blue. Susan Blue was a well-known voice actress, and she played my nemesis especially in the first one. She was kind of bullying Angelica Jones, my alter ego. And so, and she was so good, and she made such a good bully. But that was one that I remember very well.
That's so great to hear. Oh my gosh. Like I love Susie too. Like I met her and she was just so nice. You know, everything you could want from a voice actress. Definitely. Like just like the just the niceness. I love the nicest stuff when I meet people. So of course, you're not just limited to Spider-Man and his amazing friends. You've done other stuff such as Chuck Norris, Karate Commandos, and you know, Dennis the Menace and Spider-Man 94. So what was it like working on those shows?
Well, I loved it. I really liked Chuck Norris, and he taught me how to, do a karate thing and break a
Mhm.
board. And
Ooh,
and
feisty.
he wasn't used to doing voiceovers, but he was terrific. And I played a character named Pepper, and I was an automatic whiz, and I helped him out in all of his adventures and endeavors. And of course, I loved Dennis the Menace. So to play his mother in an animated film that we did was really a delight. I really embrace all my characters. I enjoy them. I make them mine as an actor, and we're voice actors. I think that it's all part of whoever you are. It's your own heart, your own spirit. You can't make a character without your beating heart, you know. So all of my characters have a great big dose of myself into them. And I like it that way, and it's fun.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and looking at all these ones on the side here, like you know, like Yogi Bear and Richie Rich and Real Ghostbusters and stuff. And honestly, like you've got such a great resume under your belt. And then you did a little bit of anime as well. You did a bit of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So what was it like to sort of do that? Because I know in anime, um, it's the dialogue's obviously recorded in Japanese and then it comes over to the United States for you to dub over it. So what was it like to sort of dub over? Was it hard? Is it something that you're not used to because you record the dialogue
Well,
that way?
I liked dubbing. I like dubbing, and I also taught how to dub and to do the characters. There's a whole technique when you're doing ADR or when you're dubbing, to see how the character is moving its mouth that's already been recorded, and how you can start something like in Japanese is doitashimashite,
Yeah.
and that's thank you. Well, how do you, say thank you when the character is saying doi tashmashite with a lot of different syllables. So you can say, thank you. And that will, elongate it enough. Um, or they may add the script writer that's doing the dubs, thank you very much. And thank you, oh, so very much,
Yeah.
to Tashmashte. So it was fun to dub, and I did a whole television series of Chinese, and
Oh.
so played a lot of the different characters, and that was the Monkey King, which is a big fable and classic in
Mhm.
China, and so we dubbed that whole film, many episodes that we did of the Monkey King, as
Mhm.
well as the lot of Japanese anime. And when I
Ah.
I did the character of Enya, which was really fun. It's great to
Mhm.
play witches, as well as I played schoolgirls in the JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. So it
Yeah.
was great. And this has been great talking with you. And if your listeners want to get in touch with me, they can just go to my website, which is kathygarver.com. That's simple enough, KATHYGARVER. And I have the Firestar figures there. I have Mrs. Beasley ornaments there. I have photos of Frank and Dan and I from Spider-Man that have been autographed, and other Spider-Man pictures and pictures from family affair, all kinds of memorabilia. But I would love it if they'd like, to like my Facebook, which is again Kathy Garver, nothing really fancy, Kathy Garver fan page, and my personal one, Kathy Garver, so they can go there. And my Instagram is at KG Cissy. So I've written 5 books, and my one that surviving Sissy, I have a lot of chapters devoted to voiceover and getting into the business and things like that. So that's a nice book. All those books would be great for Christmas gifts. I have the Family Fare cookbook and holiday recipes, and then the Family Fare scrapbook and Surviving Cissy and Ex-Child Stars, Where Are They Now? My new book will be out in April, and that's Romancing with the Stars. So that's my sales pitch. And Dan always says, "Oh, Kathy, you are such a self-promoter." I said, "Hey, I'm not gonna promote myself who is, Dan." And he, at the moment he was saying that, he was wearing a Spider-Man t-shirt, and he was wheeling a little suitcase with Spider-Man as the main characters and other animated characters around. I said, "Dan, don't give me that." People know who you are. I said, "I'm not going to wear that little yellow outfit with the red boots all over the place."
You should do. I think you'd make a great real life Firestar.
Well, thank you. Firestar older. I'd be the grandma to Firestar.
Yeah, perhaps maybe.
Play Aunt May.
Yeah, definitely. So with that, I would like to say thank you so much for watching In Conversation with ATF, you at home. This episode featured the lovely Kathy Garver, and she was absolutely amazing. And I hope I get to keep in touch with her. Kathy, I really hope that. I really hope that. And I've enjoyed filming this episode with you, and I hope my viewers love watching it as much as I did filming it. So with that, I will sign off here. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in another video. All right, take care from me and Kathy. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. And cut.